Yeah. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
I'm digging it. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's a good morning, ain't it?
Man, it
Yeah.
is beautiful morning, Johnny.
Yeah. So it is. You're listening to Recovery Talk with Glenn and John, and today we're going to give you some real uncut, like raw. We ain't editing nothing. It. What we're talking about today is some serious stuff, and I think me and Glenn have had to work on this and we're probably going to work on this for the rest of our life. And it talks about the tongue, and it should be used to build up and not to tear down, just like it says, to pause and think before we speak. So, um, you know, uh, we touched on some things over over the course of time of doing some podcasts here, and but for the most part, I'm the kind of guy that needs to hear that stuff over and over again, like literally over and over and over again. And Glenn, me and you have been talking for a while now over the years, and I keep coming back sometimes to the same stuff like this. And you always taught me to be kind and loving and compassionate, no matter what. You just be nice. But for some reason, when I am literally going through the fire, and there's some things going on right now, and I'm not going to make it too much about that. Had some stuff done, and it is uncomfortable with some surgery, and I'll leave it at that. But I've been able to be a little bit more kinder to my family and to people around me, and to communicate with love, because I can't erase words. When I say them, it's just unfortunately, and sometimes it stings so bad that the people that I love, they don't forget that. And it takes a long time for me to earn their trust again. And so silence is golden and duct tape is silver. Not to say nothing. But sometimes for some reason I have a tendency of, when you push my invisible scars, and there are a bunch there, they hurt and I will act out. So I'm learning that when you push those, whoever it is, I'm like, hey, could you do me a favor? Could you just give me a second? I don't appreciate that. See the tone in my voice, my facial expressions, where before it'd be like, what the hell are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you doing that? There's no love in that. So yeah, we'll start off with that, and then we'll run with it, because that's what comes to mind right away when we're talking about this stuff.
Yeah. Wow. Beautiful. Great opener, Johnny.
Yeah, bro.
Great opener. I take notes.
Yeah, I know you do. The note taker.
I want to welcome our audience. As we say, redundancy is a necessity. So we say the same things over, but we want to welcome. And you may hear a lot of the same things on this podcast, because we understand that they need to be said. They need to be heard by our audience, by you guys, and by us. So we go over things, and it's interesting. And so, yeah, I mean, I heard that. You need to hear it over and over. Johnny had it, love and compassion. Communicate with love. It's how we're communicating. It's interesting. And so, but this is the thing about it. First, I want to say this. So, and I always learned, and not always learned, I learned early on is that I wanted to discover not how to prevent myself or anybody for getting into a jam, but I wanted to understand what to do when I found myself in the middle of it. So even though we grow and we change, and we actually become a little bit more of really our reflection, which is really the Lord, we become love, and we learn how to think it and walk in it and speak it. But there's those jams that we find ourselves in And I always wondered who was going to teach me what to do when I find myself in the middle of it. And so, we've talked about it, Johnny. Sometimes it's a matter of really, it's like what it says on the ticker, pause for a second, because listen, it's never going to, the mistakes are coming. The trials are coming. Pain happens. Life happens. And the good news is that when my tongue, not if, my tongue gets me into trouble, and I love it because James says it, right? James chapter 3, the tongue, and I put it up. Who can tame the tongue? Nobody. And he says it's deadly and full of poison.
Yeah.
And the truth is it does lessen over the years. We're not the same that we used to be. We're not the same people. We don't speak the same, but sometimes, or as much, I should say, because sometimes it still happens. And that behavior, though it's far and few in between, and we grow, it happens. And so I can't give myself that unrealistic expectation that somehow
Yeah.
I'm going to make a mistake again, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to find myself there, Johnny. And the thing is what do we do when we find ourselves right there, right? That's the question.
Yeah. Stages. So as time goes on and you're in recovery, and you are learning that communication is the most effective tool that I have. I have been taught to focus on my facial expressions and the tone of my voice. It's usually when things are not going my way, like a cable bill is a little too high, electric bill's way too high, right? Something happened where someone did something wrong in my family, and now the consequences are going to be a little bit of a money situation. My point is that I'm learning to communicate with love. That is when it comes down to it, love, it always wins. So as time goes on, I'll make a phone call quick, and I will talk about it before I start making, here's the crazy thing about this: impulse decisions, emotional decisions, emotionally immature, and it comes out wrong. Can you imagine me going to my boss if I'm mad and screaming at him? That wouldn't work.
Yeah, let me know how that works out.
No. So why am I going to do it to some of the people I love? And I have to, it's practice. So practice makes habit. And so there's different stages emotionally as time goes on of me communicating, that I'm learning how to communicate with love. Yeah. That I didn't know. No one ever taught me that. No one ever taught me how to communicate.
Wow.
I mean, really, I don't think me and you, no one's ever sat down and go, hey, communication, you got to do it with love. And I had to get beat down and then rebuilt again. I have a new identity, in Christ. This is me. This is this guy right here. So I don't know. It's a process, bro.
Yeah. Wow.
It has been.
It's a process. We'll hear that. You guys will hear that over and over. It's a process. So pay attention. Stages, Johnny, emotional stages, as we go through all of these things. And I love it, man. The only way to conquer evil is by doing good. And if that's true, and it is, because it's in the Bible, it says it, it's really the only way to conquer or to overcome. It sounds simple. It's just, it takes practice. It takes time. And it all hinges from, as you and I know, it hinges from our relationship spiritually, from the Lord God, our Lord God. It hinges from that. Because if I don't have a reference point in how to act and behave, if I just base it on good morals, that's just me trying to do it on my own. I need something that's bigger to help push me, and really that love is satisfied in me says that's what compels me. His love
Yeah.
compels me to do all those things. So,
Yeah.
um, good stuff, Johnny. Man, so pick up the phone. There's a lot of things we can do when we find ourselves in the middle of it. And again, I'm kind of going back because I don't want us really. We're not trying to sound to you guys. There's a solution, and we live in that. It's
Yeah.
just unfortunate that life happens, that mistakes happen. But the good news is we have these principles. We have which are biblical in nature. We have God, the Lord first. Principles. We have each other, Johnny, and we have these tools that we can use that we've learned to make our wrongs right again. Because if I set myself up and I think, man, I'm doing so good, and I'm whatever the pink cloud or whatever it is, I'm heading for disaster. Because when trials and troubles come, I need to be equipped with something to help myself get out of that jam, right? So the tongue is tricky, man. James says it, and it's one of our favorite. We talk about it all the time. It's one of our favorite books, right?
Yeah.
So, and I've read it over and over. We can read literature, we can read AA, we can read the Bible, and knowledge is not enough for us, Johnny. We need wisdom. See, knowledge, it just puffs up. It just tells me that I know something. But love, and you said it right. Love actually builds up, and that's just the truth. When you read 1 Corinthians 8, you read it. It's there. So, and you sent it this morning. I love your text this morning, man. We do that for each other, guys. If you don't know,
Yeah.
we send it out, and it's just great. We get to share back and forth. So, I don't know, Johnny.
Every day. Well, a couple things come to mind when we're talking about, we're talking about speaking and we're talking about, communicating and stuff like that. And I have to tell you guys this is very big for me, and Glenn can piggyback off this with me. I cannot stress it enough. Accountability, because I can't do it alone.
No.
I have to call every day.
Mm-hmm.
See, Glenn knows the tone of my voice. Glenn knows if I'm off, if I'm struggling.
Yeah.
And when I am struggling, I usually go to the Lord and, dear Lord, help me, please. But I will make that phone call because God speaks through skin. And I know that when I call him, or, I have a couple other go-to guys that have a good foundation, they will redirect my thinking to where I am giving love. But Glenn, you've been the rock on that, as far as like, it's not about anyone else when I'm reacting. It's about me. I'm the problem because I'm reacting instead of responding with love. So accountability of establishing that healthy relationship with somebody, and consistently calling on the phone so that they can grade my paper, not me. They can grade my paper, and they can actually go ahead and go, yeah, that doesn't sound too good. And I think we've said this a couple times in some other videos, but like I said, we got to keep talking about this all the time. Same thing over and over. But for me, communication, when I'm off, I'm able to call, make a phone call, talk about it, redirect my thinking where I can come back to the problem that is giving me, whatever it is, whether my family, whatever, and come to it with love. And it's taken, Glenn, you've been on my journey the whole time. You know where I was then and where I am now. It's like night and day.
Yeah.
I still struggle, guys, a lot, but I'm trying to work on it, pay attention to it, open-minded, willing, and teachable to take these suggestions of communication with love. And that's what comes to mind with me when we're talking about all this stuff. I mean, I'm throwing a couple curveballs, fastballs at you. Are you catching them? Yeah. Take the key, take the package, deliver it to the first floor, Open up the. I love it.
We would have to go into detail so the audience understands.
Yeah,
But hey,
yeah,
well, good stuff, man. Again, there's so much to chew on there. And what is it? Why is it unfiltered thoughts? Right? It's so dangerous and deadly because without a filter on my thought, it just comes out. And I'm not even thinking, is this in love? Is this coming from my heart? Is this coming from my head? No, I don't even think about this. Unfiltered, boom, head, mouth, out. Jam, trouble. Trouble's coming.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that again.
Yeah. Not good. So, and we got to stumble. We got to make a few mistakes. We learn from our mistakes, by the way. We learn from them. That's the best teacher in life, right? Is experience.
Yeah, 100%.
You can't experience. And so we can pause. It's right there. Pause and think. But right, Johnny, it does hinge on a couple of things. Accountability you talked about, the communication and we're not alone because being alone in my own mind, an old pastor said, it's like going into a neighborhood you don't belong into alone. You ought not go there. You ought not be there. So if I'm in my head and I'm alone and I'm trying to figure out how to get out of this thing, I'm in a bad place. I need to pick up the phone. I need to call somebody. I need to get out what's inside. So don't fall for that trap. And so in doing that, and we talked about it and early on about solving problems. Here it is. This is the base course, simple concept of life. It's solving problems by way of communication. And what is communication? It's talking and listening.
Yeah.
So that's what we do, and we get honest in it. So if I make a mistake, you best believe I better not go around that. I just better admit, hey, I made a mistake again, and I'm in need, of some love and some forgiveness and some mercy.
Yeah.
So we get honest with God, with each other, and with ourselves. We get honest. I mean, what do you think about all?
Well, I think that there's a couple of things come to mind when we're talking about this. So you just said it a minute ago. When you're in recovery, you become a part of a family and you're not alone anymore. That's number one. Number two is you're able to go to meetings, watch people's walk, and start to establish a healthy routine where you think and you see someone's walk as attractive. I'm not going to be hanging out with people that are cussing all the time, okay? Because my heart has changed. And so when I start establishing a network of people that are healthy and my phone is filled with them, I'm able to go to Glenn, Pastor Lenny, Mr. Leroy, Phil, all these guys are going to give me the same stuff. It's because they all have the same love. It doesn't matter. One of them, I'm not going to go to somebody who's going to tell me to go, yell at my wife and you're the boss. And that's the craziest thing ever. So my point is, it's very important for me to understand that when I get into recovery, that I start to establish healthy relationships. I'm not alone anymore, like Glenn just said, and I'm able to go ahead and ask questions, ask for help, ask for advice. What do you think about this? But there's clear-cut directions in the Bible and there's clear-cut directions in the Big Book. They basically combine with each other, So as time goes on, I'm learning to communicate with love, like we're talking about here, and it's taken me a long time to get here, but I was so willing, and I saw the peace within my heart for just being kind when it wasn't okay to be not okay, when things were, when I was going through the fire and certain things, I was able to go ahead and walk through it with love, communicate with love, and that's taken some practice. But stages in our recovery. And if I'm not going through it with love, then I need to take my hands off of it and sit down.
Yeah. Boom.
I mean,
good stuff, Johnny, really. Right off, I mean, off the top, you know, and I know you could go on and on.
I can.
I know you can. But let's do this, man. I feel compelled, right? So let's crack this nut open, all right? Let's.
All right.
We always say we're going to keep it real, and this is real because. Yeah. So these are some of the nuggets that we discover because we sometimes we speak lightly of the truth, and it's sort of you know, we're not really specific, right? So we know that there's a solution and people can help, and the Lord is our lead, and there's information. And so when we crack this nut open, you know, as we find that we did through the steps, we found out something specifically in step 4 and 5. One, when we wrote it, and second, when we spoke it. And there's this thing of fear that most people are not aware of. The Bible teaches us, and so does literature, that fear is not from God, period. That has to be discerned. And fear is associated with timidity or doubt, shame and guilt, all of those things, insecurities. They're just arrows and targets that affect us. Like you said, the button that's pushed, and it is a battle, and it's a struggle, and it's real because there's a fear associated when we look at our lives past and even in early recovery that was driving everything, right? So that fear, whether it be whatever it is that causes this tongue to come to life and spew poison, is based on fear. So when we crack it open and we look at it, there's a fear behind everything, right? It's a driver. So the fear of what? I got all kinds that I'm aware of, but we need to become aware of those fears and understand when they arise, or be able to identify it even after it happens and realize that's not me. That's not from God.
Yeah.
So, you know, how do we associate and bring those two together? The fear and the tongue, right? I mean, those kind of go together, no?
Yeah. I think at 100% what you're talking about. I mean, it's every time something's not going my way. I mean, I get emotionally immature and I act out and I spew stuff because that's my old way. That was the only way, you know, to handle the situation, to let go of all that steam. Where now I try and approach things by communicating, and it comes down to the basic stuff. If something is bothering you and someone's in your boundary, you can actually say to them, "Hey, could you give me a second?" Or "I don't appreciate that." It's very just like that. "Hey, I don't appreciate that. Please don't do that." Where before it would be, "What the," you know, every cuss word would come out, and the body language would be all over, and I would be, you know, "You don't tell me what to do." I'm just ridiculous words of eh. So as time goes on, I'm learning to slow down my roll, communicate with love. And for some reason, when I walked through it a couple times in the beginning, I was like, okay, that was pretty cool. But then I did it again where I was yelling. And then I'm like, gosh, I can't believe I did that. And then I'd come back again, something else would happen, and I would go through it with love. And then again, I would go through it and I would, you know, same thing, going back to like the dog going back to the vomit. I would yell or scream, and I'm like, God. So I had to go through those emotional stages to realize when those things were happening. I remember, don't do that. You remember what happens, and you got to go say you're sorry. And then you have an emotional hangover for the rest of the day because you're beating yourself up. I can't believe I did that. So I had to go through these stages to where something bad was happening. It was uncomfortable. And then the next thing you know, I'm like, hey, could you not do that?
Yeah.
So
Wow.
Yeah, words of love.
Yeah.
It's a process. It's a long process. But
It is.
accountability, guys, accountability is very important. talking to somebody every day, reassuring you. I mean, it's helped me dramatic. I mean, it's helped me so much. I can't even tell you.
Yeah. Well, and that's good. And there's, I'm gonna take it right back because I mean I love what you said. I'm gonna take it back to the cracking open the nut because that I know for y'all listening, it's vital. This is important that if you hear from me, you're no good. You made a mistake again. What's wrong with you? Man, are you ever going to learn? And
There it
so
is.
all of a sudden, something transpires in me. Okay. Fear is a dominating factor that needs to be controlled. And really only, like you said earlier, it's only overcome by love. But we need to identify with what's going on in the moment because I become the thing that people say to me. So
yes,
I think all of a sudden I'm a loser. Look at me. I'm never going to change. So that fear is robbing me of what the program is teaching me, what the Bible is teaching me. It's telling me that I'm not that I'm actually good, that I can bear good fruit. So, but I think that I'm a bad tree. And I don't think by people saying that, I believe I'm a bad tree and a bad tree can't produce good fruit. You see, so my thinking has to change, right? Which gives me the identity and the value that comes from the Lord, right? So, but in the interim, it's super important to crack that nut open because if we don't, it's just kind of scooting around it because it's going to happen. It's going to happen to the audience, to you all, and Johnny, and it still happens to us, does it not?
Yeah, and I'll tell you that is a lot of meat and potatoes what you just gave. But I also want to piggyback on that is that in the beginning, I had so many insecurities. I had so self doubt about myself that I didn't feel like I was worth nothing. But here's the hope is that because I keep coming back, keep sitting in the rooms, keep going through the steps with my sponsor, talking about this to my guys in my network, I have a new identity. My heart has changed. I'm not the same person I was before, and so therefore I'm able to come to it. I know my insecurities, but I'm able to. If you tell me that there's something wrong with me, just like you just said, a lot of fear, insecurities, just I feel crappy about myself. I'm able to pause, make a phone call, talk about my feelings. And then that way I'm not spewing out crap all over the place just because people are, being unkind to me. So, I mean, Jesus, he got beat down really bad. He still loved him. So I keep going to that when things are not going my way and people are not being very kind to me. I'm like, just love them. Just love them. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. Well, and it's real and being transformed, Johnny, by the renewing of our mind. It's doable. It's a lot of hope. And again, we're just keeping it real for you guys so that you can understand that we don't have unrealistic expectations. The realistic aspect or expectation is that nobody's perfect. I mean, Jesus Christ was perfect only. And so we're not going to say that we're going to walk perfectly. We're just okay in making the mistakes. Sometimes it's just okay to be not okay, Johnny. You heard that said before. So, and the good news is working the steps, understand those principles. We have a way out. They teach us. It teaches us. The Bible teaches us. How do I get out of that jam when I'm in it? Because you're going to find yourself in it. And the good news is there's a way out. So, Johnny says it a lot, to sit, pause, just stop for a second. Fear is going to make you scramble and flee and run. It wants to do that. Who am I to say that one time or two times, right? I remember it 2 times. I'm minimizing, but I'm in my truck. I'm going the other way at 100 miles an hour, and I'm realizing, where am I going?
Yeah.
I got into trouble. I'm in a jam. I got in an argument. Now I'm running in my truck. Where am I going? I'm running in fleeing. So that's what fear does. That's the battle. So just pause, stop, go to a meeting, get on the phone, call your sponsor. We do it. We're not alone, Johnny, right? We do it together.
Yeah. Do it together.
That's the good news. So, Well, here we are again, coming up on the end.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So listen, guys, thank you for watching. If you guys don't mind, please leave some comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Subscribe, hit that click, and hit that that like button and subscribe. And you know, there's going to be a lot more videos coming. We haven't done in a couple of weeks, had some things going on, but we're back. But hey,
Yep.
easy does it today. Easy does it.
Easy.
And yeah, that's it. You know, just enjoy each day with love, compassion, grace. Love, compassion, grace. And it's good. It's a good journey. So Glenn, love you, brother.
Great journey. Love you too,
Yeah, man.
Johnny. Much love
Yeah,
to
bud.
the audience. We'll see you again real soon.